Whether you've tracked calories before or this is your first time, I'm gonna run you through a step-by-step guide of how to track calories accurately so your dream weight loss can become a reality. Food has calories, your body burns calories for energy, and inside of those calories are proteins, carbs, fats, and a bunch of other micronutrients. You will need two things, a phone and a food scale. Okay, first things first, your body has a daily calorie need, what it needs to sustain the way that it currently looks. You can find out what that number is by simply Googling a calorie calculator, entering your details, and once you find that number, otherwise known as your total energy expenditure, it's all easy from there. You eat more than that number, you're gonna gain weight. If you eat less than that number, you're going to lose weight. And if you eat around the same amount as that number, you will continually sustain where you are currently at. That's it. No magic food, no tricks. It's really that simple. Before we get into tracking calories, there's one last thing we need to go over, and that's kilojoules versus calories. Firstly, they both measure the same thing, energy. They just differ depending on where you are from, just like kilometers versus miles, Celsius versus Fahrenheit. You get the point. Kcal, also known as kilocalories, are basically what someone means when they say this piece of food has 300 calories. However, kilojoules is what's more commonly used in Australia, Europe, and a couple of different parts in the world. And they are what you'll see on Australian food labels most of the time. Some food packets will tell you both calories and kilojoules, but sometimes they'll just have the one number. Now, this is not something that you're gonna need to know consistently. However, if you do find a packet that is only stated in kilojoules, the most rough estimate that you can go by is just dividing it by 4, and that's gonna get you roughly the amount of calories in that product. Or you can get an exact conversion if you go on your phone's calculator, switch it to convert mode, and then convert from kilojoules to calories. But in today's case of using the MyFitnessPal app, that's all gonna be handled for you. There are only 3 things that you need to know how to do with your scale. 1 is turn it on, and if you can't get that far, I cannot offer you enough help in this video. Secondly is the mode button. This is how you're gonna switch between grams, milliliters, ounces, and a few other different types of measurements. Thirdly, the tar button. The functionality of this button is to take whatever's on the scale, cancel it back out to 0, and we'll talk about why this is important shortly. MyFitnessPal is my app of choice and what we'll be using today. However, it doesn't really matter what app you decide to go with. All of the measuring of the food is going to be the same regardless of whatever app you choose. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, the easiest way for me to show you how to track a meal is to cook a meal. So let's get cooking. So today we're gonna be making a recipe. So it's basically like a meal prep where you're gonna put all your ingredients into one sort of batch and then divvy them up amongst multiple containers so you can eat throughout the day. For what we're making today, we're gonna make 2 servings so we can make this as simple as possible. On your app, it's gonna look something like this. Your goals will be very different in the beginning depending on what you set them to, but we're gonna go to the More button down in the bottom right-hand corner. We're gonna scroll down and we're gonna go to My Meals, Recipes and Food, and we're going to create a recipe. We're gonna enter the ingredients manually, and we are going to be making baked oats. We are serving for 2 people, but this can be adjusted later, or 2 servings of the ingredients. And then we're going to go next, and it's gonna bring you to this page where you need to start to add all of the ingredients. First things first, turn on that scale. We're gonna be blending everything, so it's gonna go into a NutriBullet container. That goes on the scale. Now it's gonna show the weight of that container. We wanna get rid of that because that's not something we want to track. So we hit our tar button function. That's gonna take the scale back to 0. Now it's only going to take in the amount of weight when we add this banana in so we can track it correctly. 83.5. Now what that looks like to chuck that into the MyFitnessPal app, we'll go add ingredient, search food, banana. Now what you're gonna find here is a lot of them are just gonna say 1 medium banana. A medium banana doesn't mean anything to us in terms of tracking calories because what's a medium to me is different to a medium to you, and it could be a very wild variance in calories. So we're gonna select one. We're gonna go up to here and change our serving size to 1 gram, right down there at the bottom. And because we've weighed it out, we know that it's 83.5. Now that's gonna give us a much more accurate representation of how many calories is actually in that. Confirm that ingredient, it'll add it to the list. So we've still got 83.5 grams of the banana in there. That's already tracked. So now we tar that out back to 0 again. We add our 2 eggs. just like that. Now we're back to our MyFitnessPal. We're adding the second ingredient. We're going egg. We're going to run into the same issue here again, is it's just going to say one egg. Again, one egg could be many different things. It could be a really big egg, it could be a small egg. So we want to be more accurate than that. So when we click on one egg, the serving size, we're going to click that and we're going to change it down to 1 gram. Select that, and the number of serving size is 102.9. Now when we confirm that, now we know that we've got the exact reading that we need, and we're on to the next. All right, next up we've got our oats. We're going to get rid of that container, tar it out, make sure the scale goes back to 0. Now we're going to be measuring a cup of oats. So this is our measurement of our 1 cup. That will go on there. We're going to tar that out back to 0. Bang, just like that. Now we've got our cup of oats. Now a really great feature that comes with some of these food tracking apps, it might be locked behind a premium feature or it might be free for the app that you use. It depends on which way you go, but it is the barcode scan. So if I go add ingredient, down here on the bottom right, it says scan. Now I can simply scan this barcode of the oats. It'll scan and it'll come up with everything we need here. Now, even though we've measured out 1 cup, 1 cup can't be a real accurate measurement. Like you've seen, I had a little bit before, maybe sometimes you can go a heaped cup. So it's safer to go into that serving size, and we want to change it for 1 gram again and enter how much we weighed, which was 81.9. That way we get the most accurate measurement. Then go ahead and add that into your container. Try not to spill any on the bench, because then there's calories that you're just not going to consume anyway. Scoop of protein powders next. Chuck your container on there, tar it out back to 0 again. We're going to use this Rule 1 whey blend. Dump in 1 scoop there. 31 grams, 0.3. Now, same as we've done with the oats, we're going to use the barcode scan feature. If you don't have the barcode scan feature, it's not the end of the world. You can just manually type in what you're going to enter, but it does save a lot of time and I do recommend it. So we'll scan that barcode. It's going to come up. We're going to change it from 1 scoop to 1 gram for the serving size, and we've got 31.4. Add that in, and now you can see, because I've clicked 2 servings, it's starting to give us a rough estimate of how many calories per serving each serving is going to be, and that's going to continue to get larger and larger the more ingredients that you add in. Next up, the recipe is asking for half a cup of milk. Now, instead of trying to hold half a cup over here, pour it in, make sure it's all even, we know half a cup is 125 mil, so we're going to tar this out back to 0. We're going to use our mode function to go to milliliters, and then we're just going to pour in 125 mil of milk. Now, when you do this and you get close to what you want, go slow because it'll add up pretty quickly. 126.4, close enough, we're going to take it. If you were consuming a recipe and you were just going to enter a 1/4 of a cup or half a cup of milk, this would be a little bit less accurate, but because when we enter this product, we're going to change the serving size to 1 milliliter like everything else, and then enter that in completely, we're not going to have that issue. Again, we're using the barcode scan feature to make life easy. Scan that. 250 mil is the normal serving size. We're going to change it to 1 mil, and we have 126.3. Just like that. The baking powder is next. I've got a 1.5 teaspoon measuring spoon here, so it's going to be the exact right measurement, but just to make sure everything's accurate, we're going to measure it anyway. So we've got the container on there, we've tarred it out to 0. We're going to add that in. So let's throw that in the ingredients. We're going to barcode scan. Serving size is 5 grams. We're going to change that to 1 like always. We always want to be as accurate as possible, and we've got 7 grams. It's asking for 2 pinches of salt. Now we are going to weigh this as well. It's not going to do much to change how much calories we're consuming, but if you're tracking other factors like sodium, this is going to be really important to track, because if this goes untracked, then your sodium numbers by the end of the day are going to be out. So we'll chuck 2 pinches of salt in there, 3 spins, 0.6 grams. Barcode scan, 1 gram, 0.6. And then we're going to be a little bit cheeky. We're going to go off recipe and go for a little bit of vanilla extract or some imitation vanilla flavoring, just to have a little bit of extra sweets in there. All right, we're going to go a little bit into the cap to not get crazy. 2.7 grams. This is where you really see how important the barcode scan feature is when it comes in. It just makes life a whole lot easier when you're doing this. Now, important to note, when you're tracking these things, a milliliter and a gram are the same conversion. You don't need to constantly go back and forth and change the mode on the scales. They both do equal the same amount. So even if I change this to a milliliter or I was to change it to a gram, it'd be the same amount. You just enter how much it is on the scale. All right, chuck that on your blender. All right, now I'm going to use baking tray to line this container before I cook this, but it's important to note if you were to use butter, oil, or any kind of other non-stick product in this container, you would need to track that because those ingredients are going to leach into your recipe and they are going to add calories to your recipe. Same goes if you're adding butter to a pan that you're cooking in, any kind of olive oil, vegetable oil, when you're using to cook, it needs to be tracked so that your calories can be accurate. This is generally where people go wrong. They lose a lot of calories tracked to things like adding oil to pans, butter to pans, not tracking them. And those are calories that are just going to sneak into your daily intake. Over a long enough period of time, they might take your deficit and put you back to maintenance or even in a surplus. So very important to note that. We're going to get a knife and scrape all of this excess out because if it's calories we've already tracked, you want to bloody eat them because you'll be hungry. All right, now depending how strict you are on your diet, how many calories you've got to eat, this is the best thing about calorie tracking is you know where you can add a little bit of food or you need to take some away. Currently, we're sitting at 353 calories for this serving. That's going to leave me a little bit of room so I can get a little bit extra with it. And we're going to add some chocolate chips. So we're going to take this whole baking tray that we've just added onto here, chuck it on the scale, make sure it's tarred out to 0 like we did before, and then add a little bit of chockies in there. Always be aware of how calorie dense things are before you put it in like this because once they're in, they ain't coming out. That's 18.3 grams. We'll do a barcode scan on that. 1 gram for the serving size, change it to 18.3. It's going to add 90 calories. Split against 2 serves, we're still just under 400. Lastly, we're going to add a little bit of Nutella to this, but I'm going to show you an alternative way of measuring stuff when you're adding it to a container like this. We'll turn our scale on, grab our Nutella, make sure the lid is off. We're going to tar that out to 0. Now I can take that Nutella off the scale, grab some out, add it to the dish. Now we've just used 15 grams. This is a really good thing if this was a container of butter and we were buttering toast and we didn't want to set the toast on the scale, butter the toast on the scale, take it back and forth, just simply place your container on there, throw it all over the bench, grab out whatever you need, and then chuck it in this way. 29.7. All right, last ingredient to add. You better freaking believe it. We're doing a barcode scan again. Bang. Just like that. Changing the serving size. You guessed it, 1 gram. And what do we got? 29.4. There we go. That is all of our ingredients chucked into the app now. Now this is pretty much done. It's got to cook, obviously. All right, now you can see our baked oats have come out of the oven. Now we've got 2 options that we can go through from here. As you can see, we've got all the ingredients in our MyFitnessPal app, 477 calories for 2 servings. If we click the next button, it's going to take us over to this final screen and it's going to say, do you want to save it as 2 servings from here? Or we've got another option. So what we would do is we would put a plate on the scale. You would tar that out to 0, chuck your baked oats on the scale. You've got a total, it's 400.5 grams. Then you would divide that evenly into 2 pieces. That's going to get you your 2 servings. Now, there's actually another way that you can do this. If this is something that you wanted to pick out from day to day or maybe not eat the entire servings in 2 complete servings, what you can do is we can go into the servings here. We can change 2 servings. We can get rid of 2 servings and we can make it 400 servings. So 400.5, it's not going to allow us to do the 0.5, but we can do 400 servings and then save it like that. Now you can see we've got the baked oats serving all the way up at the top. It says it's 2 calories per serving because we've put it in as 400 grams. And then if for whatever reason, I had this on my counter and I was feeling a little bit peckish and I wanted to just take this corner off, I could then put that out, weigh it. So that's 34.8. So if I went to log that meal in my daily tracking, I would go add food, recipe, I would go to my baked oats, and I would do 1 serving and I would type in 34.7. And that's going to give me the exact calorie breakdown of what this tiny little piece is. So you can either go for this option, or you can just split it straight down the middle for 2 evenly sized servings. It's completely up to you depending on what you want to do. So that's the breakdown of how you're going to track your calories the most accurate way to make sure that you get onto your weight loss journey and the weight actually falls off this time. So, good luck.